When a routine night shift turns into a nightmare, a humble janitor named Marcus finds himself at the center of a crisis no one could have predicted. The CEO of the company, Jonathan Price, a man admired by some and quietly blamed by many, is trapped inside a failing elevator as the building around them begins to crumble. But the disaster is no accident. As Marcus fights to save Jonathan, buried secrets rise from the shadows, a long-hidden tragedy, a vengeful saboteur, and a man everyone believed was dead. Together, they will uncover a truth powerful enough to destroy the company from the inside, and find redemption in places none of them expected. When the alarms sound and the walls shake, courage isn't found in titles, but in the hearts of ordinary people who choose to do what's right. And tonight, the truth is finally coming out. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more thrilling stories. The sleek glass elevator hummed softly as it climbed the 30 floors of Hawthorne Industries. At the top, the office glittered with glass walls and polished floors, a world of power and privilege. Inside the elevator, Jonathan Price, the company's CEO, checked his watch impatiently. Late meetings, big deals, it was all the weight of the world pressing on his shoulders. Then, with a sudden jolt, the elevator shuddered and froze. Lights flickered. Panic rose like a wave as Jonathan pressed the emergency button. Nothing. His phone had no signal. Down in the lobby, Marcus Jenkins, the building's janitor, was finishing his rounds. Marcus was quiet, always in the background, often overlooked, but he noticed everything. The elevator lights above went out, and he saw the small red emergency light blinking. He frowned. Most of the building staff avoided the problem. "Not my department," muttered the receptionist. "Call maintenance," someone else said. But Marcus didn't hesitate. He knew the building, the machinery, and he knew fear. Not his own, he had faced too many battles in life to let fear stop him now. Upstairs, Jonathan's breathing grew heavier. Panic was clawing at him. His image, his power, even his money, suddenly felt useless. He pounded on the door. "Help! Anyone!" Downstairs, Marcus grabbed his flashlight and climbed the maintenance ladder to the elevator shaft, talking calmly as he worked. "Hang on up there," he called. "I've got you." Jonathan's panic subsided slightly as he heard a voice. A calm, strong voice. Not a security guard. Not a technician. A janitor. Marcus had approached the elevator controls and began working, tracing wires, flipping switches, testing mechanisms. Sweat ran down his face, but he didn't stop. "Why are you doing this?" Jonathan yelled. Marcus looked up with a small, steady smile. "Because it's the right thing to do. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. People need help. I'm just doing my part." Minutes felt like hours. Then, with a soft click, the elevator shuddered, and the doors eased open. Jonathan stepped out, blinking in the light. For the first time, he saw Marcus clearly, not just as the janitor he'd ignored all these years, but as someone brave, capable, and kind. I don't know what to say," Jonathan stammered. "You don't have to say anything," Marcus replied. "Just remember this next time you walk past someone like me. We all matter." Jonathan nodded, his pride shrinking. Gratitude and something new, humility, filled him. As Marcus turned to leave, Jonathan's assistant rushed up. "Sir." "Another problem, the fire alarm's gone off on the 20th floor. There's smoke." Marcus froze. Smoke? On another floor? The building was large, the chaos spreading, and now the real test was just beginning. Jonathan looked at Marcus. Can you help again?" Marcus hesitated for a moment, flashlight in hand, eyes narrowing toward the distant smoke-filled hallway. "Yeah," he said. "I guess it's not over yet." And with that, they both stepped into the unknown, the elevator incident a mere prelude to what was about to unfold. Jonathan followed Marcus down the wide hallways toward the stairs. The smell of smoke was faint at first, then stronger, curling through the vents like a warning. Employees were evacuating quickly, some panicked, some confused, but Marcus moved with calm determination. "Stay close," he instructed. "Don't try to rush ahead." We moved together. Jonathan had always been used to giving orders, but now he felt powerless. He realized that titles and money didn't matter in moments like this. All that mattered was courage, and someone had to act. They reached the 20th floor. Smoke was spilling from one of the meeting rooms. The fire alarms shrieked. Through the haze, they could hear faint coughing and crying. A group of employees had been trapped by the smoke, paralyzed by fear. Marcus didn't hesitate. He grabbed a fire extinguisher, handed it to Jonathan, and began guiding the employees to the stairs. "Keep low. Follow my voice. Breathe through your shirt if you have to." Jonathan realized he had no idea how to help anyone in this situation, but he watched Marcus, mimicking his movements, giving instructions when necessary. Together, they became a team. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the far end of the floor. A burning ceiling panel had fallen, blocking their path. Panic threatened to overtake the group, but Marcus stayed calm. "We have another exit," he said. "Follow me, but carefully." Jonathan took a deep breath. His heart pounded, but he felt something shift inside him. He wasn't just a CEO anymore, he was a person responsible for others. And Marcus was more than a janitor. He was a hero. As they navigated the smoky hallway, Marcus paused, frowning. "Wait, something's not right." He shone his flashlight toward a side door, and Jonathan's stomach dropped. Behind it, a shadow moved in the smoke, someone trapped, perhaps unconscious. Marcus turned to Jonathan, voice firm but calm. "I need you to stay here with the group. I'll get them." Jonathan wanted to protest, but something in Marcus's eyes made him nod. Marcus disappeared into the smoke, leaving Jonathan with the frightened employees. Time seemed to stretch, each second a heartbeat of fear and hope. And then, a sound. A faint, desperate voice calling for help. Jonathan realized that the real test of bravery, the one that would change everything, wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Jonathan clutched his flashlight, heart racing, as the group of employees huddled behind him. He could hear the faint voice of someone trapped behind the smoky door. Panic threatened to overtake him, but he remembered Marcus's calm voice. "Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it." Then Marcus reappeared, coughing but determined, leading a young woman in his arms. She was unconscious but breathing. Behind him, another man staggered, smoke inhaled but alive. Marcus set them down gently and turned to Jonathan. "Now we move," he said. The group followed Marcus and Jonathan, crawling low through the smoke. Jonathan found himself repeating Marcus's instructions to others, guiding them through the chaos. The CEO who once demanded blind obedience now gave clear, calm directions to save lives. Finally, they reached the stairwell. Flames licked the edges of the hallway behind them, but the group descended safely, one floor at a time. Jonathan's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. Marcus never stopped. When they reached the lobby, fire trucks roared outside. The employees rushed to safety, shaking and coughing but alive. Jonathan sank to a bench, exhausted and trembling. Marcus stood beside him, soot on his face, sweat and smoke mixing in streaks. Jonathan looked at him, really looked, and his pride crumbled. Marcus. I don't know how to thank you. You saved lives today. You saved me. Marcus shrugged, a small, humble smile breaking through the grime. Just doing my job, sir. And, teaching a lesson, I guess. Everyone can be brave when it counts. Jonathan felt a strange warmth in his chest, gratitude, yes, but something deeper. Respect. Humility. Hope. He realized that titles, money, and power meant nothing compared to courage and compassion. In the days that followed, Jonathan changed. He made Marcus the head of a new safety and mentorship program at Hawthorne Industries, ensuring every employee, no matter their title, was valued. Meetings that once focused on profits now focused on people. The building became a place where courage, kindness, and teamwork were celebrated, not just ambition. One evening, after the smoke had cleared and life had returned to normal, Jonathan stood at the elevator, remembering the moment he'd been trapped. Marcus passed by with a mop, smiling. Ready for another adventure? Marcus joked. Jonathan laughed. With you? Always. And as they looked up at the elevator, a subtle flicker of the red emergency light blinked again. Because in life, true tests of courage don't announce themselves. They wait quietly, in the shadows, ready to reveal who we really are. The building buzzed with emergency crews and flashing lights, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something still wasn't right. He had learned to trust his instincts long ago. They had kept him alive through life's hardest storms. Jonathan stood beside him on the sidewalk, still breathing heavily but steadier now. It's over, he said. We made it. Marcus shook his head slowly. Fires don't start on their own. Not in this building. Not with all the safety checks. Jonathan frowned. You think someone caused it? Before Marcus could answer, a fire captain jogged toward them. We've contained the floor, he said, but we found something unusual. He held up a small, scorched metal device in a plastic evidence bag. This was wedged inside one of the vents. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Jonathan's stomach dropped. That's a timer, Marcus said quietly. The captain nodded grimly. We think the fire was deliberate. A hush fell between them as the realization hit, the danger hadn't been an accident. Someone had wanted chaos. Jonathan swallowed hard. His company, his people, targeted? And if Marcus hadn't been there? I need to know who did this, Jonathan whispered, trembling not from fear but from anger. I need to keep my employees safe. Marcus placed a steady hand on Jonathan's shoulder. And we will. But this goes deeper. Someone set that fire for a reason. Before they could say more, a paramedic rushed up to them. Excuse me. We need you two for identification. There was a man found unconscious on the 20th floor. He wasn't an employee. Marcus and Jonathan exchanged a look. Who was he? Jonathan asked. That's why we need your help, the paramedic said. He had a security badge on him, but the badge doesn't belong to him. Marcus's heartbeat quickened. Then who does it belong to? The paramedic hesitated. Someone high level. Someone with full access to the building. Someone who wasn't supposed to be on that floor today. Jonathan felt the air leave his lungs. Marcus stared straight ahead. Together, almost in unison, they spoke the name printed on the badge. But the paramedic's radio suddenly crackled violently with an urgent alert. "We've discovered a second device." The words blasted through the radio. And the three of them froze. Because the danger, the fire, the timer. It wasn't over. The fire captain's radio crackled again, louder this time, as if the building itself were shouting a warning. "We've discovered a second device. Repeat, there is another device planted somewhere in the building." The street erupted into motion, firefighters sprinting, police officers shouting orders, employees screaming as the fear they thought had passed came roaring back. Jonathan felt cold all over. He had already come face to face with the possibility of death once today. He didn't know if he could face it again. But Marcus straightened his shoulders. "We need to go back in," he said calmly, the words firm as stone. Jonathan stared at him. "Back in? Marcus, are you hearing what they said? There's another bomb. Which is exactly why we can't stand out here and hope someone else finds it," Marcus replied. "We know the building better than anyone. We know the shortcuts, the flaws, the vents, the blind spots. And whoever put that first device in, they knew the place too." The paramedic interrupted gently. "Sir, the unconscious man we found, the one with the wrong badge, he's awake now. He's asking for you both." Jonathan's eyebrows shot up. "For us?" The paramedic nodded. "And he said something strange before he passed out again." "What?" Marcus asked. The paramedic leaned in. He said, "Check the floor where the lights never turn off." Marcus and Jonathan exchanged a baffled look. "The lights never turn off?" Jonathan muttered. "That doesn't make sense. Every floor has automatic timers." Marcus paused. His eyes widened slowly. "Except," he whispered. A chilling realization crawled up Jonathan's spine. "The research floor." Marcus nodded. "Floor 12. Those lights stay on 24/7 because of the prototypes." Jonathan's chest tightened. The company's future, its new designs, its confidential patents, were all on that floor. If something happened there. "This isn't just an attack," Jonathan murmured. "It's sabotage." Marcus took a slow breath. "Then we need to stop it." Before Jonathan could protest, the fire captain jogged over. "If you two know something, we need it. Now." Jonathan hesitated, but Marcus stepped forward. "The device is probably on the 12th floor," he said. "And if it's anything like the first one, it'll be set to go off soon." The captain didn't waste a single second. "Then move. We'll send a team with you." But Marcus shook his head. "A full team will take too long to gear up. Jonathan and I can scout ahead. Just keep backup close." Jonathan opened his mouth, every instinct screaming, "Don't go back in there." But he looked at Marcus, calm and steady as always, and he remembered who pulled him out of the elevator when no one else would. He nodded. "I'm going with him." The captain stared at them, then finally gave a curt nod. 2 minutes. Then we follow." Marcus turned toward the building's entrance. Jonathan took a shaky breath, adrenaline buzzing in his veins like electricity. "Marcus," he said. "Yeah? Do you think we can really find it before it goes off?" Marcus looked up at the towering building, smoke still curling from one of the floors. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I know this." He met Jonathan's eyes. "We're the only ones who know where to look." And together, they stepped into the building again, not knowing that someone else was already waiting on the 12th floor. Someone who knew they were coming. Someone who had one last device, and one last secret to reveal. The stairwell echoed with Jonathan's racing footsteps as he followed Marcus upward. The emergency lights glowed a dim red, painting every landing in eerie shadows. Smoke still lingered from the upper floors, clinging to the walls like a warning. Marcus kept his flashlight steady, sweeping each corner before moving forward. "You doing okay back there?" he asked. Jonathan exhaled sharply. "I'm trying not to think about the fact we're hunting a bomb." Marcus smirked faintly. "Thinking about it won't help us. But sticking together will." When they reached the door to the 12th floor, Marcus paused. The hallway beyond was strangely silent, too silent. Jonathan swallowed. "Why aren't the alarms going off here like they were upstairs?" Marcus didn't answer. He was staring at the floor beneath the doorframe. "Look," he whispered. Jonathan crouched beside him. A tiny thread of blackened metal sat on the floor, almost invisible to an untrained eye. Burned. Melted. A fuse wire. Marcus's voice dropped. "Someone tested something here, before the main fire ever started." Jonathan's heart hammered. "So they started on this floor first, then moved up?" Marcus nodded. "And if they planted a second device, this is where it'll be." He pushed the door open slowly. The research floor was a maze of glass lab rooms, desks littered with prototypes, blinking server racks, and the faint hum of machines that were supposed to be shut down during emergencies. But what stopped both men cold was not the equipment. It was the figure standing at the far end of the room. A person in dark clothing. Hood up. Face hidden. Waiting. Jonathan froze. "Is that?" Before he could finish, the figure spoke, voice low and disguised. "You weren't supposed to come back." Marcus stepped forward just slightly. "Who are you?" The figure laughed softly, too softly for a place filled with danger. "You don't recognize me. But I watched you both. Every day. I knew your routines. I knew when you'd be alone." The head tilted. "And I knew how to make the building crumble from the inside." Jonathan's blood turned to ice. "Why?" he demanded. The figure pulled something from their pocket, a small remote. A blinking light on it flashed in slow, deadly intervals. Marcus tensed. "Stop. You don't want to do this." "Oh, I do," the figure said. "Because this place took everything from me." The emergency lights buzzed overhead. Sparks crackled somewhere in the vents. The whole floor felt alive with danger. Jonathan took a slow, trembling step forward. "What did we take from you?" he asked. "Tell me. Help me understand." For the first time, the figure lowered the hood just enough to reveal their face. And Jonathan's heart dropped. He knew them. He knew them extremely well. "You," he whispered. "But you were fired months ago." Marcus's eyes widened. "Jonathan, you know this person?" Jonathan nodded slowly, horror dawning. The saboteur smiled bitterly. "Oh, I'm surprised you even remember my name." Marcus looked between them. "What's going on?" But the figure stepped back, raising the remote higher. "You took my job," they said to Jonathan. But that wasn't enough. Their thumb hovered over the trigger. "I'm taking something from you." Marcus stepped in front of Jonathan instantly. "Don't," Marcus said firmly. "You don't want to cross this line. Not for a job. Not for revenge." But the figure's hand trembled, not with fear, with emotion. "You didn't lose what I lost." Jonathan's voice cracked. "Then tell me what that is. Tell me so I can make it right." But it was too late. A soft beep echoed from somewhere deep in the server racks. The second device had activated. The saboteur's eyes widened in horror. They hadn't pressed the button yet. It wasn't supposed to start now. Smoke curled from the vents overhead. Marcus grabbed Jonathan. "Arm. We have to move. Now." But Jonathan stood frozen, staring at the saboteur. Who wasn't running? Who wasn't leaving? Who whispered, voice breaking, "Tell my family. I'm sorry." And then a deafening metallic clunk came from behind the walls. A timer had begun. Marcus grabbed Jonathan again. "We have seconds, move." They sprinted toward the exit. As the unseen device began counting down. 10. 9. 8. And the saboteur stood alone on the burning floor. 7. 6. 5. Marcus and Jonathan sprinted through the corridor, the emergency lights flickering like frantic heartbeat monitors. Heat burst from the vents. Whatever device had been triggered was feeding off the server room's power, accelerating faster than they expected. Jonathan stumbled, but Marcus steadied him with a firm grip. "Stay with me," Marcus shouted over the rising hum. But Jonathan wasn't looking ahead. He kept glancing back, toward the saboteur who stood frozen in the haze. "Marcus." Jonathan choked. "We can't just leave them. We don't have time," Marcus yelled. But Jonathan stopped running. Marcus skidded to a halt, turning back in disbelief. "Jonathan, move." Jonathan shook his head, breath ragged. "I can't leave someone behind. Not again." Marcus stared at him, really stared, and saw something raw in Jonathan's expression. Something broken. Something from long ago. But there was no time to ask. 4. Marcus cursed under his breath. "Then we both go back." Jonathan's eyes widened. "Marcus, no, you already saved everyone today. I won't let you." "We finish what we start," Marcus said simply. "Together." They ran back toward the glowing red core of the research floor. The saboteur still stood by the server racks, shoulders trembling, face pale. Jonathan approached carefully. "Come with us. Please." The saboteur refused to lift their eyes. "There's no time." Marcus looked at the rapidly pulsing vent lights, now turning an ominous orange. He could hear the ascending whine of an overloaded capacitor. "Listen," Marcus said. "You made mistakes. Big ones. But dying here isn't going to fix anything." The saboteur's voice cracked. "You don't understand. I wasn't targeting the people. I was targeting the company. I lost everything after I was fired." Jonathan stepped closer, voice softer than Marcus had ever heard it. I should have listened to your warnings before you left. I should have helped you instead of pushing you out. But right now, we can still save your life. The saboteur's lip trembled. I don't deserve saving. Jonathan swallowed hard. Then let us help you anyway. 3. Marcus extended his hand. We're not letting anyone die on our watch. For a moment, just a heartbeat, it seemed the saboteur might refuse. Then slowly, their shaking hand reached out. Marcus grabbed it. Jonathan grabbed Marcus's shoulder. They turned. 2. And sprinted for the stairwell. Hot air blasted down the hallway as fire erupted from the server room. The floor trembled beneath their feet. Marcus shielded the saboteur with his body. Jonathan shoved the stairwell door open. 1. All three dove inside. And then, a blinding flash lit the entire corridor. A shockwave slammed the door shut behind them. The stairwell shuddered, groaned, and went dark. Smoke curled under the door. Jonathan coughed violently, trying to stand. Is everyone? Marcus pushed himself up, wincing. I'm good. They both looked at the saboteur, dazed but alive. But before any of them could celebrate, a distant echo rolled up the stairwell. A metallic screech. A deep rumbling. The building was still shifting from the explosion. Marcus's face fell. Oh no. Jonathan's voice trembled. What is it? Marcus looked upward, slowly. Then whispered. The blast triggered the old structural beams on this side. If they go. He didn't finish. They didn't need him to. A massive portion of the 13th floor ceiling cracked. Dust falling in a soft rain. Jonathan froze. Marcus grabbed his arm. We have to move. Now. But before they could take a step, the entire stairwell above them buckled with a thunderous groan, and began to collapse. The stairwell roared above them. A thunderous crack split the air as metal beams, old ones that should have been replaced years ago, snapped like brittle bones. Dust exploded downward in a choking cloud. Marcus shoved Jonathan and the saboteur against the wall. Cover your heads. The ceiling above them buckled, groaned, and fell. A slab of concrete the size of a car slammed down onto the steps just 10 feet above their heads, sending vibrations through the entire stairwell. The lights flickered wildly, then died completely, plunging them into darkness. For a moment, none of them breathed. Then Jonathan whispered, voice shaking, "We're trapped." Marcus clicked on his flashlight. The beam cut through the haze, revealing a mountain of twisted rebar and concrete blocking the way up. We can't go higher, he said. The entire section's gone. The saboteur sank to the steps, trembling. This is my fault. I did this. Jonathan knelt beside them. Look at me. You're alive. That means you still have the chance to make things right. Marcus swung the flashlight downward. There's still a way out. We go lower. But as he leaned forward, the ground beneath his boot shifted slightly. Jonathan noticed. Marcus, don't move. Marcus froze. What's wrong? Jonathan shined the flashlight where Marcus stood. The step beneath him had a crack running straight down the middle. And it was spreading. Marcus exhaled. Okay. That's bad. The saboteur gasped. If he moves wrong, the whole staircase could drop. Jonathan's heartbeat thundered. He looked around desperately, but the stairwell was narrow, the railing weak, the walls cracked from the explosion. The space felt like a giant throat threatening to swallow them whole. Marcus gave a calm, steady look, too steady. "Jonathan, listen to me. Take the kid. And get down to the next landing. I'll ease back slowly." Jonathan shook his head violently. "No. I'm not leaving you. Jonathan. I said no." His voice echoed through the hollow stairwell. Jonathan stepped onto the cracked landing beside Marcus, ignoring the dust raining from the ceiling. He braced his shoulder under Marcus's arm. "You helped me face my fear in that elevator. You saved a whole floor of people. You came back for someone who hurt us." Jonathan's voice wavered. "You don't get to be the one left behind." Marcus met Jonathan's eyes. For the first time, something flickered in Marcus's expression, gratitude, and fear. "All right," Marcus said softly. "Together then." He shifted his weight carefully, too carefully. The crack beneath the step grew. Jonathan tightened his grip. "On 3, he whispered. 1, 2. "Wait," the saboteur cried. Jonathan and Marcus froze. The saboteur pointed to the railing. "There, where the metal's bent. You can use it to pull yourselves around the broken step." Marcus squinted. A twisted section of the railing jutted out just enough to grab. "That might work," he muttered. Jonathan nodded. The saboteur crawled down the next few steps, giving them space, their voice cracking. "I don't want anyone else hurt, not because of me." Jonathan took Marcus's hand. "Let's do it," he said. Marcus nodded. "Hold tight." Together, they shuffled sideways along the narrow edge of the broken step, gripping the bent railing. It groaned under their weight, metal protesting, dust falling, the staircase trembling like a wounded animal. The crack beneath them widened. The railing rattled. Marcus lost his footing. Jonathan held him tighter. "I've got you. Don't let go." Marcus gritted his teeth. "Pull, pull." With a final heave, Jonathan dragged Marcus onto the next safe step. They collapsed together, gasping, shaking, alive by inches. The saboteur let out a sob of relief. "We're okay," Jonathan said, breathing hard. "We're okay." But Marcus's flashlight flickered, then died. And in the dark, a distant rumble echoed through the lower levels. Jonathan whispered. "That wasn't the building settling, was it?" Marcus shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "Someone else is down there." The saboteur stiffened. "Who?" Marcus inhaled sharply. "I don't know. But whoever planted the second device wasn't working alone." Jonathan felt his blood run cold. And from far below, deep in the dark, hidden floors of the building, a voice echoed upward. A man's voice. Familiar. Calm. Waiting. "Marcus. Jonathan. I wondered how long it would take you to get this far." Jonathan froze. Marcus's breath caught. Because they recognized that voice. And the truth hit them like a shockwave. They all knew him. They all trusted him. And he was supposed to be dead. The stairwell fell silent. Only dust floated between the three of them, settling slowly in the beam of Marcus's dying flashlight. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat. That voice, he whispered. Marcus swallowed hard. It can't be. But the voice rose again from the depths of the building, calm, steady, and unmistakable. Come down. We have unfinished business. The saboteur pressed their back to the wall, trembling. You said he was dead. You said the accident in the loading bay. Jonathan shook his head as if trying to shake away a nightmare. I saw the reports myself. I signed them. He was crushed under the freight elevator. Marcus frowned. A report's only as true as the person who writes it. Jonathan stiffened. Are you saying I was lied to? I'm saying someone hit him, Marcus replied. The saboteur's voice cracked. But why would he still be here? Why speak now? Marcus turned off the useless flashlight and pocketed it. Because the building's weak. The explosion forced him out of hiding. That's the only reason he'd reveal himself. Jonathan took a shaky step downward. I need to know the truth. Marcus steadied him with an arm. Then we go together. Stay close. The three of them descended carefully, guided only by the faint glow of emergency strip lights along the wall. Each step echoed. Each breath felt borrowed. As they reached the next landing, Jonathan paused, gripping the railing. Marcus, what if he blames me? What if I could have prevented what happened to him? Marcus looked at him, a calm, grounding presence. Then you face it. And you fix what you can. Jonathan nodded, his throat tight. They descended another flight. The air grew colder. The smell of smoke faded, replaced by something metallic, and something else. Something like a memory. At the next landing, the emergency lights flickered to life, revealing a door stenciled with peeling letters. Sub-basement storage, no entry. The voice drifted through the door like a whisper of wind. Down here. Marcus approached the door, testing the handle. It was unlocked. Too easy. He glanced back at Jonathan and the saboteur. Stay behind me. He pushed the door open. A long concrete hallway stretched ahead, dimly lit, lined with old equipment and forgotten boxes. Water dripped from pipes overhead, each drop echoing like a heartbeat. And at the very end of the hallway, stood a man. A man Jonathan knew better than he wished he did. Marcus inhaled sharply. The saboteur gasped. Jonathan froze. Because the man standing there, tired, scarred, but very much alive, was Harold Baxter. Former operations chief. Marcus's mentor. Jonathan's closest advisor for years. And the man whose death had fractured the company. Jonathan's voice came out small. Harold. Harold stepped forward, the light revealing the deep lines in his face. Hello, Jonathan. Jonathan staggered back. Marcus steadied him. You died. We held a memorial. Your family. My family was told to keep quiet, Harold said, voice sharpening. I wasn't dead. Just buried alive by people who needed me gone. Who? Marcus demanded. Who did this to you? Harold lifted his eyes to Jonathan. Jonathan felt the accusation before Harold even spoke. You did. The words hit like a blow. Jonathan's mouth opened, no sound came out. Marcus tensed. Harold, wait. But Harold raised a hand, commanding silence. You signed the order to move heavy machinery through the loading bay that day, alone. No safety team. No backup. No inspection. You rushed it to meet a deadline for investors. Jonathan felt his stomach drop. I didn't know. You didn't care to know, Harold snapped. Your decision crushed me under a ton of steel. They pulled me out barely alive. His demanded. Who did this to you? Harold lifted his eyes to Jonathan. Jonathan felt the accusation before Harold even spoke. You did. The words hit like a blow. Jonathan's mouth opened, no sound came out. Marcus tensed. Harold, wait. But Harold raised a hand, commanding silence. You signed the order to move heavy machinery through the loading bay that day, alone. No safety team. No backup. No inspection. You rushed it to meet a deadline for investors. Jonathan felt his stomach drop. I didn't know. You didn't care to know, Harold snapped. Your decision crushed me under a ton of steel. They pulled me out barely alive. His voice grew cold. And then someone inside the company finished the job of making me disappear. Jonathan shook his head desperately. I didn't want anyone hurt. I didn't know, Harold, I swear I didn't know. Harold stepped closer. You didn't look. That's the problem. You never looked. He pointed at Marcus. He looked. He always looked. Marcus swallowed, torn between mentor and friend. Harold, what's the second device for? Tell us what you're planning. Harold's eyes softened, just a flicker. Then hardened again. It's not about destroying the company, he said. It's about exposing it. Jonathan paled. Exposing, what? Harold turned slowly to the saboteur. Tell him. The saboteur shook their head violently, eyes filling with tears. Harold, please, don't make me. Tell him, Harold repeated, voice commanding. The saboteur clenched their fists. Jonathan, they whispered. The fire, the device, all of it, wasn't meant to kill. Jonathan blinked, confused. It was meant to reveal what the company has been hiding about Harold's accident. Marcus stiffened. Evidence. Yes, Harold said. Evidence buried in the sub-basement servers. Records showing the company cut corners. Records showing Jonathan never checked the safety reports he signed. Jonathan felt the ground tilt. He gripped the wall. I didn't know. Harold's voice was a tired growl. Because you didn't want to. Jonathan shook his head, tears stinging his eyes. No. No, I want to know now. I want to fix it. Whatever it takes. Harold studied him carefully. Long. Quiet. Then he said the last thing Jonathan expected. You'll have to prove it. How? Jonathan whispered. Harold pointed deeper into the darkness. By going with me. Marcus stepped between them. Going where? Harold's eyes shone with something unreadable. To the place the company never wanted anyone to see. Marcus, Jonathan, and the saboteur exchanged a look. Then slowly, all three stepped forward. Harold turned. And together, they walked into the deepest shadows of the building. Unaware that something else was waiting there. Something alive. Something watching. And something that did not want the truth revealed. Harold led them deeper into the sub-basement hallway, past rusted pipes and dark alcoves where old machinery slept like forgotten beasts. The air grew colder, heavier, thick with secrets the building itself seemed reluctant to give up. Marcus stayed close to Jonathan, one hand hovering near his back in case he stumbled again. The saboteur followed quietly, avoiding Harold's eyes. At the end of the hallway stood a steel door, unmarked, heavy, and far too new compared to everything around it. Jonathan frowned. "I've worked here for 15 years. I've never seen this door." Harold gave a humorless laugh. "You weren't supposed to." Marcus stepped forward, inspecting the edges. No hinges. No lock. How does it open? Harold reached into the pocket of his torn coat and pulled out a small metal card, scorched, bent, but still intact. "My clearance card. The one they claimed was destroyed." He pressed it against a black panel that Jonathan hadn't noticed before. A mechanical chime sounded. Slowly, achingly slowly, the steel door slid open. Cold white light spilled out. Jonathan shielded his eyes. What is this place?" They stepped inside. And the truth snapped into focus. Rows of servers. Stacks of locked file drawers. Screens displaying old footage, paused mid-frame. Blueprints pinned to corkboards. Maintenance logs going back 20 years. Marcus's jaw dropped. "This is an archive." Jonathan turned in a slow circle, stunned. A hidden one. Completely off the books. Harold walked past them, moving with the familiarity of someone who had lived here. "This," Harold said, "is where they buried the evidence after my accident. And after several other accidents that were labeled as human error." Jonathan's stomach twisted. "How many incidents?" Harold pointed to a row of red folders. "More than you want to believe." Marcus moved to one of the monitors, brushing dust from the screen. "What's on these?" Harold clicked a keyboard. Video playback appeared. A security feed. The loading bay. Jonathan felt his chest tighten. "That's the day of your accident," he whispered. Harold nodded. "Watch closely." The video showed Harold doing an inspection, just like he did every morning. Another man appeared, someone wearing a reflective vest and hard hat. Someone Jonathan didn't recognize. Marcus leaned closer. "That's not a safety officer." Jonathan frowned. "Then who?" A second camera angle loaded automatically. The same man was shown disabling a weight sensor. Then loosening a bolt. Then making a call. Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. That was sabotage. Jonathan felt sick. I didn't know. I thought, everyone told me." Harold faced him, expression complex, anger, pain, and maybe something like hope. "You trusted the wrong people, Jonathan. But that doesn't excuse ignoring the signs." The saboteur stepped forward hesitantly. "I didn't even know all of this. I only saw fragments. Enough to know something was wrong. Enough to feel betrayed." Jonathan's voice broke. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Harold answered quietly. "Because someone didn't want you to know." Marcus turned from the screen. "Who?" Before Harold could speak. From the back of the archive room. A faint clicking sound echoed. Like a boot heel. Or something metal being cocked. Jonathan stiffened. "Someone's here." The lights flickered. Then a shadow moved behind the rows of servers. Marcus stepped in front of Jonathan instinctively. Harold narrowed his eyes. "It's him." Jonathan whispered, "Who?" Harold lowered his voice. "The man who sabotaged the loading bay." The clicking came again. Closer now. The shadow stepped out from behind a server rack. Tall, wearing the same reflective vest from the video, though older now. His face was hard. Cold. Determined. He spoke with quiet venom. "You should have stayed upstairs." Marcus clenched his fists. "You caused the accident. You almost killed him." The man's lips curled. That was the point. Jonathan felt the world tilt. But, why? Why target Harold? Why bury the evidence? Why attack the company again? The man's gaze sharpened. "I didn't just attack the company." He lifted a small device, one identical to the detonators used upstairs. "I attacked the person responsible." Jonathan froze. The saboteur gasped. Marcus stepped forward. "Put it down." But the man shook his head slowly. "Jonathan Price destroyed my family when he chose profit over safety." Jonathan felt his breath falter. "What are you talking about?" The man's voice cracked with fury, or grief. "You don't remember. But you should." Marcus's eyes darted between them. "Jonathan, do you know him?" Jonathan shook his head. "I don't. I swear I don't know who you are." The man stepped forward, trembling with years of buried rage. "You should." He reached into his vest pocket, pulled out an old ID badge, and tossed it at Jonathan's feet. Jonathan picked it up and went pale. "No," he whispered. This can't be right." But it was. The name on the badge was one Jonathan recognized immediately. A name he hadn't spoken in nearly a decade. A name tied to the company's darkest chapter. Jonathan's voice broke entirely. "You're his son." The man's eyes filled, not with tears, but with a lifetime of hurt. "Yes. And I came to finish what your signature started." He raised the detonator and pressed the button. Nothing happened. A soft click. A red blink. Marcus blinked. A dud? Harold's eyes widened. "No," he whispered. "That wasn't a detonator." The man smiled, a quiet, chilling smile. "It was a signal." A deep rumble echoed from somewhere behind the servers. Jonathan's heart stopped. Marcus jerked toward the sound. Harold's face drained of color. The saboteur covered their mouth. And the man said the words that froze all four of them in place. "You're not alone down here." The rumble grew louder. Dust sifted down from the ceiling. A low metallic groan echoed through the hidden archive. Marcus pulled Jonathan back. "Everyone stay behind me." Harold stood beside him, jaw clenched. "I know that sound." Jonathan's voice shook. "What is it?" Harold looked toward the far end of the room, where a massive shape began to emerge between the server racks. "A maintenance exosuit," Harold said quietly. "But heavily modified." The machine stepped into view, rusted metal, thick plating, reinforced limbs. A person sat inside its cage-like cockpit, helmeted, hands gripping the controls with unnatural certainty. Marcus's heart dropped. "Oh no." The man in the reflective vest, Daniel, smiled bitterly. My father designed this prototype. It was meant for safer lifting. Better protection. More lives saved. His voice hardened. Instead, the company cancelled it. Cut the funding. Made him the scapegoat. He died trying to finish what the board refused to support. Jonathan flinched. That was before I was CEO. But you approved the final safety cuts. Daniel roared. You buried the project. And my father's future. The exosuit whirred, stepping forward with a thunderous clang. Jonathan took a step back. I didn't know he had a son. I didn't know. That's always your excuse, isn't it? Daniel snapped. You never knew. You never looked. Marcus stepped between them. Daniel, listen. What happened to your father was wrong. But hurting more people won't fix it. Daniel's eyes glinted with pain. It was never about hurting random people. He pointed the exosuit's claw toward Jonathan. It was about him. Jonathan swallowed hard. Then, for the first time in years, he didn't hide behind a boardroom mask. He stepped forward. I deserve your anger, Jonathan said softly. I made choices from a place of ambition. Pride. Blind trust. But people got hurt because I didn't slow down to check the truth. And whatever happens now, I'm not running. Marcus grabbed his shoulder. Jonathan. But Jonathan lifted a shaking hand. Marcus, let me stand. For once. Daniel hesitated, just a flicker. Harold stepped forward too. Daniel, your father was my friend. Daniel's face trembled. My father trusted you, he whispered, voice cracking. He said you were the only one who believed in the project. I did, Harold said. And after the accident, I tried to expose what the board covered up. Someone silenced me. But it wasn't Jonathan. Daniel blinked. What are you saying? Harold nodded slowly toward Jonathan. He made mistakes. Serious ones. But he didn't orchestrate your father's downfall. Someone else did. Daniel's grip tightened. Who? Harold opened his mouth. But the exosuit lurched suddenly. Not forward. But sideways. A misfire, sparks flying. Daniel jerked the controls. What? No, stop. The exosuit teetered, smashing into a support beam. Concrete cracked overhead. Jonathan's eyes widened in horror. The building. Marcus shouted, take cover. The ceiling buckled. Harold shoved the saboteur toward safety. Marcus grabbed Jonathan's arm. Daniel fought the controls, panicked. The beam above them split in two. Jonathan looked up, and saw exactly where it would fall. Directly onto Marcus. He didn't think. He didn't hesitate. He dove into Marcus, slamming him out of the way. As the beam came crashing down, the world exploded into dust and roaring noise. When the dust settled, Marcus pushed himself up, coughing. Jonathan? Jonathan. Harold and the saboteur helped him clear debris. There, half buried beneath the shattered beam, was Jonathan. Alive. Breathing. Barely. Marcus let out a choked gasp. John, why would you do that? Jonathan managed a weak smile. For once. I looked. Daniel stumbled from the exosuit, horrified. I didn't mean. It wasn't supposed to. Marcus glared, helping Jonathan sit upright. This ends now. No more secrets. No more revenge. No more lies. Harold stepped beside him. We take everything in this room to the authorities. Every file. Every record. Every truth. Daniel collapsed to his knees. I just wanted someone to care. Jonathan reached out, trembling. I care. And if you let me, I want to help make things right. Daniel's tears fell silently. The saboteur whispered, So, is it over? A long moment passed. Marcus finally exhaled. Yeah. I think. The lights suddenly flickered. Then went out. Total darkness swallowed the room. The ground rumbled again. But this time, it wasn't from the damaged ceiling. Harold's voice cut through the dark, grim and certain. That wasn't the building. A low electronic hum filled the air. Then a single red light blinked to life across the room. A device strapped to a pillar. A timer. Counting down. And not one of them had placed it there. Marcus's voice broke in disbelief. There's another saboteur? Harold whispered the last words of the night. No. Something far worse. The timer dropped below 10. 9. 8. 7. Jonathan whispered, Marcus, what do we do? Marcus stared at the blinking light. Gathered every ounce of courage he had left. And said, We run.